Hey, everybody. I'm Hillary Atkin from the Atkin Report, and I'm absolutely thrilled to welcome Hannah Fidell, the writer, producer, and director of A Teacher, to this edition of Hillary's Happy Hour. Hannah, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, hanging in there.
Well, congratulations of the success of A Teacher on FX on Hulu. I watched all 10 episodes, riveted, wondering how this story of an illicit affair between a high school teacher and her student was going to play out. And what kind of reactions have you received so far about this series?
It's been incredibly positive, and which is thrilling, obviously. But yeah, it's been so interesting to hear, uh, you know, people's response that it's evoking a lot of um, thought and conversation, and which is exactly what we wanted. We didn't want to make an easy show. It's at times, I know it's as you know, having watched it, it's a tough watch, purposefully, because these situations are tough. So uh, it's been just really, you make something and then it goes out in the world and it's no longer yours, it's everyone else's to experience. So it's very exciting just to see that the audience is reacting in exactly the way that I had hoped.
Well, let's take a step back for those who haven't yet seen it. And Kate Mara plays the teacher Claire. Nick Robinson plays Eric. But what I found fascinating as a viewer is that this is actually based on your 2013 film called A Teacher, and you made a lot of changes. For instance, the teacher herself in the film is single, unlike in the series where Claire is married. And also the Eric character, the high school senior in the film, is a lot more, shall we say, aggressive and less sympathetic of a character than Eric in the series. So can you talk about developing those characters and why you made those changes?
Totally. I think it really comes back to um if I'm going to tackle the same subject matter, I want it to be a little bit different. And by having Claire have a husband, trying for a family when we first meet her, it ups the stakes of, everything that she has to lose. And for Eric to be more sympathetic in the TV version, that was very much because, I think at the end of the day, while we wanted people to question whether or not what was happening between them was right or wrong, it's so clearly wrong. And we really needed the audience to sympathize with him, regardless of whether or not he's the pursuer.
Well, let's also look at the genesis of the story itself, even before your 2013 film, which, by the way, is now on Hulu because of all the interest the series has generated. So that's where I was able to watch it last night. So that was it was really exciting. I want to pass this on to viewers to see the series and then to go back and watch the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Or I don't know, maybe I should have done it in reverse order, but
No, I think you did it the right way.
all right, well, let's take a step back and what initially inspired you. I know you've spoken openly about experiencing sexual abuse yourself.
Yeah. What's funny is I didn't realize until I was actually making the show that, which again was 6 years after I had made the movie, but um, that I that it stems from my own personal experience. And my experience was not with a teacher. It wasn't with anyone in a position of power. It was sort of a classic, like, I hate using the word classic, but it was a friend who I'd gone to high school and college with and who I trusted. And so, but at the same time, it's still like a breaking of trust. And so I was able to tap into that. But I think what really initially interested me in the subject matter was, you see online constantly and in tabloids, like, here are all these women who have had relationships with their students. And there's something about that is like titillating to our culture,
Yeah.
and people continue writing about it. And it's never, you don't see that same sort of writing about male teachers who have relationships with their students. So for me, I was really struck by the mugshots of these women who look seemingly normal. And what compels these women um, to to ruin their lives in a way that just I had a really hard time comprehending. And it was only, like I mentioned, it was only until later that I realized that what I was doing was actually exploring, like, how the my friend who had raped me, um what his sort of like reasoning was in his head, and now he was living with that after the fact, and the lies that he was telling himself. And that's something we really go into, especially in the second half of the show, of how the teacher, played by Kate Mara, is telling herself so that she can keep waking up in the morning the next day, and sort of powering through after she's completely ruined her life and others' lives as well.
But before she ruined her life, what were her initial motivations in beginning the affair with Eric? Like, what was she telling herself? I mean, as a viewer, you're watching going, is she just bored in the marriage? Is it
Yeah.
the issue with the father that comes up later? Like, I want to hear it from you. You created this character.
Yeah, for me,
Why did she do it? Right?
well, I think in so many of these cases, just in the research that I did and we did in the writer's room, it's really these women missed pieces of their youth. And so a lot of the time, it's not like these two people are in love and it's just can't be. No, it is really about um, the fact that Eric, and especially in our show, but that the student represents this thing that the teacher never had. And so it's almost like he's not a real person for her, even though for him, obviously, like he's in love with her. And she might be telling herself that she's in love with him, but really he's representative of like this larger thing that she never got to experience.
But even with the kind of, I hate to even use this term, but the hot for teacher narrative, the script is still flipped in our patriarchal society of it's normally a female who would be the female student who would be abused, and you explore that very deeply. And Eric is he's very proud of it.
Yeah, he proud of the
The
relationship.
relationship.
I don't know. I think he's
Well, at least in the first part of the series.
yeah, I mean, There's in episode 4, he looks in the mirror at the beginning of the episode and at the end of the episode, and he says, "I'm the man." And to me, the way that he says that isn't proud. It's almost like he's trying to convince himself of that. Like he's
Yeah.
unsure of that. And so, like he's been taught by society to feel that way, but actually he's like deep down, this might not be right. So I think that's, to me, what's much more, just from a creative and standpoint, what was so exciting about having it be a female teacher and a male student was that it is so celebrated. Like there are so many people who are like, I don't see the problem with this. And so to be able to show that there is a problem, that this does have a consequence regardless of gender, that these guys shouldn't just be high-fived, and in fact are victims themselves, that was really important. And I don't think that question exists if you flip the script. So it was really more about forcing the audience to think about their own understanding of what's abuse, and just like actively engaging in it.
Well, I think post Me Too, there was a huge shift, and now we would see Eric as a victim, although we're also not necessarily seeing Claire as a villain. So let's talk about in the show why she decides to break down and tell her coworker about the affair, probably knowing full well that she's about to destroy herself, her family, Eric, and his family. Why does she decide to do that?
Well, I think it stems from, no matter what, she's going to blow up her life. She's going to self-destruct. And it's only a matter of time. So, I mean, her behavior sort of speaks for itself and the self-destructive bent that she clearly has. And I think, it's because this isn't like love, because it's something other than that. She's not acting in a rational way from the beginning of the show. So she certainly isn't going to act rationally later on either.
Well, along with the beginning of the series shows the two of them in, the romantic scenes culminating with that weekend getaway. But the series also obviously explores the aftermath of the abuse of power. So let's talk about, spoiler here, the very end of the show focused on Eric and not even showing Claire's reaction.
Yeah, I mean, it becomes he becomes the person in power in that final scene. And he's the one who's able to get up and walk away and end the conversation and end this, chapter of his life. And I think there's something really important and just cathartic about that. Because even though the show is called A Teacher, even though it's a two-hander where we see both of their lives, at the end of the day, he's the one who has to really deal with the consequences. And so it only made sense that we end on him in that very final scene.
So after the series is over, what are your fondest hopes about what the audience will confront and what they will take away from viewing this?
Well, it's been really interesting, because I feel like it already, the show has been a conversation starter in a way that beyond my wildest dreams. But the fact that that now the phrase grooming is like much more, I think, at least in just what I've been reading, uh, understood what that means, and just that, anything that uh, really forces the audience to continue thinking about it. To me, that's a huge success. So I'm just so thrilled that um, that the show is out there and it's done as well as it has.
Well, on that note, I would love to toast your success on the show, Hannah. And it's also fantastic. We didn't mention, but there are resources at the top and bottom of each series for people to contact for help and for more information. So that's so important as well. And again, I want to thank you so much for taking time out. And again, congratulations on this landmark series.
Thank you so much for watching it and for having me.
You're welcome.
Nice talking to you.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.